Hello everyone. This is not a story for the faint of heart. Today, we will be stepping into the darkness of the most gruesome cases, where evil not only exists, but also leaves bloody and haunting traces. This is Real Gruesome Murder Cases, a series of true stories about murders that made the whole world shudder. If you are ready to face the cold truth and the gruesome corners of humanity, come with me to delve deeper into each case. Better fires. Dear Jay, I lit the mailbox on fire when I saw you kissing M. Others told me that when feeling too much, one might hurt oneself. There might be cuts along the arm or starvation. I had no inclination toward self-harm. From a very young age, I understood that the world does enough to you. Why do any more to yourself? I saw you kissing M behind the cafetorium, and I ran all 7 blocks home. On the way, I saw the Gozer's blue mailbox, and I knew it had to burn. One match around the base, and it went up quickly along with whatever mail was inside of it. The red flag was up, and I did it anyway. Later that night, I attended a slumber party and started the rumor that you had done it, that I often saw you lighting ants on fire with a magnifying glass as though that was a natural origin for someone who would eventually begin setting better fires. Some of the girls believed me. Some didn't care. One told me that you kissed her after her shift at Pizza Grace and your mouth tasted like a fountain drink. I watched her after she fell asleep. I visualized her waking up to find her hair on fire, but I didn't do it. I didn't want to hurt anyone, not even you. When I asked you to the dance, you told me that you'd already agreed to go with G, even though that was a lie. I knew it was a lie, because I knew enough about you by then. When you lied, your left eyebrow would twitch. Maybe it still does. Do you still lie? Would you tell me if you did? I told you that I understood and wished you well. I knew that you were going to ask G as soon as I was out of sight. Then, if you changed your mind, you'd simply pick someone else to bring. What you were never going to do is show up with me. Not me. The girl who had to wear baggy tops to hide how much she developed between sophomore and junior year. Not me. The know-it-all who the teachers had stopped calling on, because she always knew the path Napoleon took on his first campaign and the first 15 numbers of pi. I don't think intelligence was a turn-off for you. On the contrary, I think you wanted me to be smarter. You wanted me to be so smart that kissing me would be like allowing dark matter down your throat to rip you apart from the inside. You held me to a different standard. I'm sorry, Jay. I didn't know that's what was going on. I thought you just wanted to kiss the prettiest girls in the school. I never investigated what your deeper motives might have been. The day you told me you couldn't take me to the cotton candy dance, I went to the greeting card store in town and set fire to all the get well cards. They were at the back of the store, and there was only one cashier working. I made quite a pile, struck the match, and walked right out. By the time the smoke alarm went off, I was already watching from down the street. Lucky for me, greeting card establishments don't have security cameras. I went to a pool party the following weekend and told everyone there that you'd confessed to me a year ago that you hated greeting cards. Seeds were planted. A freshman who was at the party told me that you'd been putting removable tattoos in her locker. Hearts with knives in them, and mermaids who refused to smile. She pulled down her bathing suit bottom and showed me where she'd placed one of the tattoos. It looked like Joan of Arc tied up and suffering her great punishment. I think you're right, she whispered to me in between bites of a burnt hamburger. I think he might be obsessed with fires. Why else would he give me this? The world will give you all the answers you want if you know exactly how to phrase the questions. On the way home from the pool party that day, I saw you in your front yard, mowing the lawn without a shirt on. I waved to you, and you waved back. You flexed for me, and then laughed. I saw a clean line of sweat going down your back to the gray t-shirt that was tucked into your red shorts. I wanted to cover myself in grass and let you run over me. It took me a moment to realize that my hand was still raised in a frozen greeting. You had stopped my time. You'd put me in a deep freeze. Only one thing could dissolve it. The day before graduation, I burned down the school. Part of me knew that eventually it would come to that. I'd used my allowance every week to buy kerosene, matches, bottles, rags, and any other accelerant I could find. The man at the hardware store questioned me about it early on, but I told him that teenage girls were using these types of things to help with our hormones. He seemed perplexed, but no man over 40 wants to know why teenage girls are doing any of the things they do. The next time I came in, he'd set aside some paint thinner for me. It was on sale, 2 for 1. That's what I used in the second-floor bathrooms. There was no commencement that year, no caps, no gowns. The only thing thrown up in the air was the spray of a fireman's hose. Students gathered around the periphery of the school. Some cried. I held my homeroom teacher as she asked why anyone would do something like this. I knew that the two of you were writing inappropriate notes to each other between periods. She must have justified it by telling herself that you were mature for your age. And maybe she was right. I try not to condemn anyone if I can help it. The worst condemnation of all has already occurred. The day of the school fire was also the day of the harvest. Everything I'd put into the ground was ready to be reaped. Rumors about your love of starting fires were too widespread to ignore, even though, in many ways, you were the town's favorite son. Your father had been the star linebacker for the football team back when he was in school. Your mother was valedictorian. You were going to do great things, and you were going to go far, and you were going to kiss every girl you wanted to kiss, and never give me more than a wave or a flex of your muscles only to laugh at me for staring. All of that got burned up and turned to rubbish. You went to jail for the very first time. When you got out, you couldn't find a job. Your parents disowned you. You couldn't even find a woman gullible enough to take you in, because by then, you reeked of smoke. Soon, you were dealing drugs and holding up food marts and gas stations. I lost track of how often you were in and out of prison, but I know you're there now, and I'm sorry, Jay. I'm sorry for the part I played. I'm sorry for every match I struck. I'm sorry you didn't see that I could have learned more. I could have caught on faster. I could have bloomed had you only allowed me some light. When you get out, I plan to be waiting for you. I'll pick you up and you can come stay with me. You can mow my lawn. You don't have to give me anything, just the respect I was owed back when we were children. Back when you thought a little cold water would put me out. You never knew that I was electric, did you, Jay? You never tasted my grease. You never thought to smother me. A little cold water. What was that going to do? I'll be standing at the gates when they release you. I'll bring the cigarettes you like. I'll light the first one. Then, I want a kiss. A nice, long kiss. I want to taste the emission. I want you to fill me up with smoke until I feel as though I'm never going to breathe again, where time almost stands still. Okay, how do we start this story? We could start it with character descriptions. Nah, that's on you and your imagination. We could write a beautiful description of atmosphere and breathtaking elements. Nah, not going to happen. Then how? Fuck it, let's just go. Cole Johnson's entries. Day 104. I went to court today. It was some good, some bad. I was offered 24 years. That's good. I won't see Sally or my children for 8,760 days. That's bad. This is a decision I must absorb. My attorney says it's the best I will get and advises I take it. I won't. I did not do anything wrong. Today is chicken on the bone day, so I'm going to be quick in my documentation of my thoughts to you, world. Philip will be done working out soon, too. This place is so hard, but at least I have Sally's calls to look forward to. World, if you have an ounce of compassion, please forgive me. I did nothing wrong. As Cole finished his diary entry, he knew it was close to chow time, and he had his chicken already sold. It was a different kind of currency behind these walls. Instead of dollars and cents, it was items like soup and peanut butter. Chicken went for 5 soups, which was considered to be very expensive. We will talk about this again. Day 162. I talked to Sally today. She's so amazing. I really miss her caress, her lustful look that she always had when she gazed upon me. She had eyes that you could feel deep in your heart. They were inviting. I could see she was deep in thought about me, and I could almost reach into them and pull her soul into mine. We talked about our normal topics at first: bills, her work, our longing for each other. The one thing we never discussed was my crime or my potential sentence. I know what's coming, and she does as well. I told her how much I missed her. We recalled our first date for the 500th time, but it was a story that made us both smile and laugh. These memories were all we had now. Cole had to get 16 soups, 4 honey buns, and 2 bags of Doritos together. He had run up a debt, expecting Sally to help him with commissary. This debt was caused by the paper and pen he negotiated for, which was hard to acquire in this place. He wanted to write Sally letters, as well as his children. Although, there were other ways to earn items when you're broke. We will not get into that unpleasantness right now. Day 315. I finally acquired a pen. These golf pencils are only good for writing these entries, not really meant for the long letters I want to write for my children and Sally. Baby mama will no longer let the children take my calls, so getting this pen now was perfect timing. Question is, will the price I paid for it come back to haunt me? In here, debt is bad, so I don't know what will happen. I need to sell more spice, but I have been transferred to the 600 block, which is all pizza and folks that don't do drugs. Ugh, it's always something. I guess I will write my children. It has been over 60 days since we spoke. I really hope their mom reads these letters to my kiddos. Cole had procured that pen at a great cost, pretty much all of his commissary, so he had to reach out to others to try and get the funds so he could get more commissary. This was not on his top 10 list of favorite things to do. He would have to call his brother. His mother was just a poor waitress, so his only other option was his brother. Cole's mentality was changing inside those walls. Never before would he even have fathomed begging his brother. He always found a way to get things on his own. Now everything was different. He was dependent on help from outside these walls and barbed wire fences. Day 461. I am losing all love, it feels like. All I see is hate, greed, and controlled movements. The only thing I have anymore is Sally. She has been sick so much lately that she has not been able to help much. Our phone calls are spread out now and have become less frequent due to the financial burdens I bring. I am contemplating letting her go. We will never make love, touch, or even be allowed to see each other face to face given our great distance. She will never be able to afford that trip. Also, no letters from children. I am truly alone. People think they understand this world, but they don't. Why do I deserve this? What did I do? Cole was disappearing now. As the world got faster on the outside, in those walls, time almost stood still. Every day on the outside, new cars are bought, birthdays are celebrated, technologies are created, kisses are given, and life is moving. In here, the most simple things cease to exist. Day 936. As I write to you, world, my soul is disappearing. How will I ever be able to come back into you? My beard is long, and I have encountered so many things I never knew one man could do to another. The sound of a man's last gasp of breath. Then he's gone. World, I still don't understand what my crime against you was. Why did I get put in here? What was my crime that was so bad that you felt all should be taken? The only light left for me is Sally. Her monthly call is enough to keep me from slipping into the dark abyss. She is to call at 6 p.m. I need to shower to prepare. I know she cannot see me, but I feel she does. She is my love, my life, my soulmate. Cole went to shower, and there was a group of men that was looking to retaliate for something he had no part in, but the fact he was there was good enough for them. It was a wrong place, wrong time type of deal. Day 966. World, as I write this entry, I can barely see due to the beating I took in the shower. I need your help. I missed my call with Sally. That's all I could think about as the 4 men repeatedly stomped my skull. I have been in the infirmary, and when I get out, I am looking at 60 days in the hole, 'cause I won't say who jumped me. So, I sit here and write, which is all I have anymore. World, you're the only one who hasn't abandoned me. Can you hear me? All I need is a small sign to know that at least you are real. You and Sally are all I have. I need you, world. The beating Cole took was severe. It fractured his skull, broke 9 ribs, and put him in the infirmary for 30 days. Due to his silence, he was going to be put in isolation for 60 days. In here, someone always has to pay. However, the whole was a lighter sentence than talking. Talking would have meant his life. Day 1027. I'm back. My wounds are better. I'm still sore, but I'm better. I will never regain the teeth that I lost. Now, every day when I look into the mirror, reflective film, taped to the wall, I get reminded of that missed phone call. I tried all day to call Sally collect, but it was not accepted. She probably found someone else. It's for the best. She deserves to move past me. I'm only a grim anchor in her life, dragging down her happiness. I guess it's just us now, world. Please send me some sign so I know you're really listening. I am so lonely now, world. Help me, so I do not become the hate that surrounds me all of the time. As Cole struggled, all communication with Sally ceased now. He was all alone. He knew now all control was gone. No word from his children, no nothing. He had only one choice now, to take the plea. He would never be able to prove his innocence. This was his life now. Day 1, 1643. Well, it's time, world. I am taking the plea. 24 years, 8,760 days, 210,240 minutes, 12,614,400 seconds. I know now that the world, yes, you, will never forgive me. Even you have to let go of me. Now, it's only these walls, this disparity. The only thing I have to look forward to is being consumed into this life. I will never admit my guilt in my heart. You, world, have let me go, so I must live only here now and continue to survive. World, goodbye. This will be my last entry. I must kill the Cole Johnson of my previous life and become the Cole Johnson behind the walls. Years passed. Then one day, a graying Cole looked under his mattress to find the journal. He picked it up and began to read. He could only sit and weep as he read words that still had a sliver of hope and moments of joy. It was an emotion that Cole had not felt in a long time. Those feelings of hope, love, ambition, and the possibility of a future were all gone now. He was covered in tattoos, not because they were cool, but because they told his story behind these walls of who he was and what he had done. As Cole held that journal and looked into that so-called mirror, he didn't recognize the man looking back at him. It was only a shell of himself. He decided to write in that journal once again. Day 6142. Well, world, it's me again. I'm sure you don't remember me. I'm the man who killed that family at that intersection on Christmas Eve many years ago. Remember me now. Why did you abandon me, world? It has not been easy. I had to kill a man, and I have been sentenced to death by lethal injection. I have tried to write the one child that survived that fateful night long ago. He is older now, and I guess has moved on. He will probably never forgive me. He will never be able to hug his sister, mother, or father ever again. I will never be able to hold Sally again, and it hurts so much. My execution has been scheduled for next Tuesday. I guess this will be my last entry. World, please let the universe know that I am sorry, and hopefully you can find a cool section of hell for me. If I could only see my love just one more time, hug my children one last time. I know now that's not possible. I hope Johnny and Allison have forgiven me and had the life they deserve and are happy. As Cole prepared to be sent into the universe, a correctional officer came into his cell to give him his last meal. He also handed him a letter. Cole stood, hoping it was a farewell from his children, or maybe even Sally. As he looked at the envelope, and he was terrified to open it. He had not seen or felt for so long, and as he began to open it, the guard told him, "We found this letter in your property, Cole. We do not know why it was overlooked, and we all thought you deserved to have it." The correctional officer left, and as Cole opened it, he noticed it was old like him. It was from Sally. It read, "My dearest Cole, I know by the time you read this I will be gone. It turned out the reason I have been so sick lately was because of the aggressive cancer inside of me. The doctors have given me only weeks to live. I am so sorry, baby. I cannot stop it. I want to tell you how much I love you. I know someday we will be together in the stars. My love, I hope this letter finds you with compassion, not fear. Everything will be okay, Cole. Even in death, I will not let go of you. I will always watch over you, my Cole. Please forgive me for leaving you. I love you so much. The doctors are coming. If I am able, I will write you again as soon as possible. Love your soulmate, Sally." All Cole could do was fall to his knees. She was always with him. He thought he was talking to the world, but it was his Sally all along, drowning inside. "What time do you call this, Maggie?" "I know. I'm sorry. The traffic. Don't give me that. You're never late. I had things to do." "Things? Like what?" "Jimmy, don't start. What's with the sunglasses?" "They're just sunglasses. Take them off." "Jimmy, please, take them. Office, I'm fine." "What the hell happened?" "It's nothing." "Damn it. Who gave you the shiner?" "Jimmy, leave it alone." "Was it Neil?" "Number Terry then." "Jimmy?" "It was, wasn't it?" "Fine?" "Yes, it was Terry." "That son of a..." "Why, Jenkins, keep your voice down. You don't know about my problems, sir. We don't want to hear about your private life, Jenkins. I didn't come here to fight, Jimmy. Then why did you come? Because we need to talk. Talk about what? United States? Us? There is no us while I'm stuck in here. You're wrong. There's still an us. Doesn't feel like it. You've been different lately. How would you even know that? I see it. The way you look at me, or don't. The way you talk, or don't. I'm tired, Jimmy. I bet you are, love. It's not easy by myself, but you manage. Barely. What are you saying? I'm saying I don't know how much longer I can keep this up. Keep what up? This life. Alone. You're not alone. That's what it feels like. You've got the kids. They're not you. Then wait for me. Wait. Jimmy, you 4 more years. So? You knew that when I got sentenced. I didn't know it would feel like this. Feel like what? Like I'm drowning inside. You're stronger than this, Maggie. Maybe I'm not. Don't say that. It's the truth. You're just having a bad day. It's not just a day, it's every day. You want me to feel sorry for you? Jimmy, don't make this worse. I'm not the one making it worse. Why did Terry hit you? He thought I was cheating on you. Cheating? With Neil? That's what he said. Are you kidding me? I didn't do anything, Jimmy. And Terry thought it was okay to hit you over a rumor? It's not just that. Then what is it? I don't know. Maybe he thinks I owe him. Owe him? For what? For keeping an eye out for me and the kids. That's rich, coming from that piece of... Jenkins, I'm warning you. Stay out of this, sir. I see your sort every day, Jenkins, and hear how doing time affects families. You don't know nothing about me and my brood, boss. Yes, but I know how kids drift with absent fathers. When I want your opinion, I'll ask for it. Touch a nerve, did I, Jenkins? Jimmy, stop. He's not wrong. What? Bernie's angry. Linda's angry. They're lost, Jimmy. It's not like I abandoned them. Maybe not. But you're the one who took the fall. I didn't want you and the kids dragged into it. I can't do this on my own anymore. Maggie, don't. Don't what? Tell you the truth? Neil and Terry were supposed to have my back. Instead, they're wrecking my family. You wrecked it, Jimmy, when you got caught. Again. You think I wanted that post office job to go sideways? It didn't just go sideways. It exploded. I was the one who got burned, Maggie. And the rest of us didn't? I did it for you. You always say that. I mean it. And what about Linda? What about her? She's in trouble at school, Jimmy. Trouble? She got caught smoking. Not Linda? Yes, Jimmy. Linda. At least it wasn't weed. What makes you think that? God damn it. Why didn't you tell me? And say what? That I can't handle my own daughter? Maybe I could have talked to her and told her. From inside? How do you reckon that'd work out? Linda listens to me. She misses you, Jimmy. I miss her too. She's angry. At me, at the world. Linda feels abandoned. But I haven't forgotten about her. She doesn't see it that way. What am I supposed to do, Maggie? Maybe you should have thought about that before taking on another job. I didn't plan for things to go wrong, but they always do. This was supposed to be my last job. That's what you said last time. I mean it this time. Linda doesn't believe in you anymore. Don't say that. It's true. She was a daddy's girl, and now she's street smart, and now she's fallen in with a bad crowd. I hate missing her grow up. Then why do you keep ending up in here? I don't know. Yes, you do. It's the life, Maggie. Then change it. You know it's not easy. It's easier than losing your family. You make it sound so simple, Maggie. I'm serious, Jimmy. It's your choice. You're giving up on us? I'll survive. Without me, without Neil, without Terry, without all of this. Give me a chance. I'll fix it. I don't think you can. I can. I will. Jimmy. Maggie, I swear to you, I'll get out and I'll make it right. How? I'll get out of the life. For you. For Linda. I've heard it all before. This time I mean it. You better, Jimmy. Maggie? There's something else, isn't there? What do you mean? The bruise, the sunglasses? You've been crying. There's more. It's Bernie. Bernie's tough. He'll be fine. He wasn't fine last night when he crashed his motorbike. What happened? He's in the West Middlesex. Why didn't you tell me sooner? You've enough to worry about. But he's my son, Maggie. Your son? He barely talks about you. What do you mean, he? You two never got along. That's not true. It is, Jimmy. He's angry, just like Linda. Is he going to be all right? The doctors think so. What happened? He saw the bruise. He got angry. Went out on his bike to blow off steam and lost control. Because of Terry? Because of everything, Jimmy. Maggie, Don't. Just stop. I'll make it right. You keep saying that. I mean it. Then prove it. Time's up, people. Let's be having you. Maggie, please, don't give up on us. You know I can't promise that. You can't leave me now. Goodbye, Jimmy. I'll change. We'll see. A rare gift for Christmas. My 6-year-old daughter Mandy and I were doing some last-minute Christmas shopping on Christmas Eve. She had been well-behaved all day as we gal-palled around the mall. I just had one last stop to make before leaving. I wanted to check a department store for a shirt for my mom. I only looked away long enough to compare 2 articles of clothing. That's all the time it took for her to disappear. I knew better. I knew how she was, just as all kids are. The ornate tree, the twinkling lights, a toy train delivering presents around the bottom of the tree, pictures of Santa, toy displays, racks full of candy. There's a lot to attract a child's attention. At the same time, though, you expect your child to let go of you and explore at a reasonable distance. It's part of growing up. So, when I turned around and she wasn't there, I didn't immediately panic. It wasn't unlike her to wander off. I called for her calmly. I searched the nearby racks because she liked to hide and make me worry. I switched to a more authoritative tone that usually brought her out of hiding. When it didn't, my voice cracked as it shot up several octaves when I began to panic. My voice grew louder as terror seized me. Other shoppers became concerned, watching me, whispering. An older gentleman offered to go find the store manager. We had the store manager call Mandy on the PA. I waited anxiously at the customer service desk, biting my nails, waiting for her to come running up like it was no big deal. She never came. We contacted mall security, who called the police. The mall was shut down and searched. A detective by the name of Sam Renfro kept asking me questions. I answered his questions, but it was hard to concentrate. I kept looking over his shoulder, past him. I wanted to be looking for my child. My heart sank when an officer walked up with her doll in his hand. He found it by one of the rear exits, one of those exits only mall employees are supposed to use. At that point, the detective concluded that we were dealing with an abduction. Horrible, uncontrollable thoughts raced through my mind. I failed her as a parent. She must be so scared. Is he being mean to her? Is he abusing her? Does he intend on sexually abusing her? Selling her? Is he some kind of psycho killer who will take pleasure in torturing her? I hadn't realized it, but I was saying those things out loud after I nearly collapsed. Detective Renfro had caught me and was holding me steady. All he would say was, "Ma'am, we'll do everything we can to find your daughter." The police issued an Amber Alert and set a perimeter to begin searching the surrounding neighborhoods. The detective told me that the best thing for me to do was to go home and wait by the phone. I couldn't see it being a ransom case, personally. I'm a software engineer. I do better than most, but am by no means rich. But as the detective explained, rich looks different depending on whose eyes you are looking through. Debt can sometimes make people desperate, and desperate people do dumb things. In all truth, I didn't want to leave. I wanted to head that investigation. I wanted to know what was going on at all times and be in full control of what was being done. But deep down inside, I knew that wasn't what was best for Mandy. The police chief made an appearance to handle the mob of news crews outside the mall, thank goodness. Their questions were overwhelming, pressing, and unsympathetic. I made a statement. I offered $100,000 for the safe return of my daughter, most of what I had in savings. Then the chief insisted that an officer take me home. I'm glad he did. My head was on a swivel trying to look into every car, at every child, and everywhere else I could see. I surely would have wrecked on the way home. When I got home and inside, that's when it really hit me. I let loose and cried at the sight of her little snow boots sitting by the door. There was nothing more I could do, and her absence was unmistakably felt. I poured myself some wine, but I didn't feel like eating, so I took my cell phone to the couch to wait for a call, any call. Before I got to the couch, I noticed it. On a square, glass coffee table, sitting like a centerpiece, was a present. It was wrapped in black with a red ribbon tied in a bow. It had a foreboding look about it. It didn't say who it was from, but someone had obviously been in my house. The only two people who had keys and access codes were my mother and best friend. I found their choice of wrapping unbecoming, and the lack of a tag unusual. But I wiped my eyes and opened the package. Inside was one of those old tape recorders, the rectangle ones with the speaker, cassette deck, and function buttons on the end. A tape was inside, so I pressed play. There were some distorted whispers at first. Then I heard a sniffle and Mandy say, "Mommy, he's hurting me," through deep sobs. I became frantic at the sound of her voice. I kept asking, "Who, baby? Who's hurting you?" as if she could hear me. Then a man's voice I didn't recognize said, "Merry Christmas, bitch. We'll be in touch." Why did he call me a bitch? Because he knew me, and that was his opinion of me. I called Detective Renfro right away. He came over immediately with a crew to tap the phones. The detective stayed with me that night. I offered him the guest room, but he preferred the couch. I couldn't sleep, so I was up all night, playing on my phone, waiting for it to ring. It wasn't until 10 in the morning that the kidnapper called. $100,000? Do you think you can buy your way out of this? You killed my kid. Now I'm going to kill yours. He hung up, and I started screaming. You know how someone jumps out when you're not expecting it and scares you? That was how his words hit me, but 10 times over. Detective Renfro grabbed me and lowered me to the floor. Shh, shh, She's not dead yet. She's not dead yet. Help me find her, Kate. Help me find her. Who did you kill? Who did you kill? I was trying to calm down, but my breathing was so quick, I felt like I couldn't breathe. The detective had to help me calm my breathing before I could even begin to answer him. I don't know what he's talking about, I told him between gasps of air. He has the wrong person. I watched the detective's eyes widen as he slumped down on the floor, lost in thought. Are you sure? I mean, was there ever an instance where someone might have thought you were responsible for the death of the child? I thought for a moment. Then it hit me. Jeffrey Clark. It's Clark. I began to shout excitedly. He T-boned me at an intersection. He claimed I was responsible for the accident, but it was ruled that he ran a red light. It was one of those, I think I can make it situations gone wrong. His daughter died in the accident. Jeffrey Clark has my baby. Detective Renfro got on the radio and put out an APB and a request for Clark's address. We got into the detective's car and started driving. When we got to Clark's home, he was gone. Police were ransacking it anyway. Detective Renfro had me wait in the car while he went to talk to the officer in charge. I saw him go in for a few minutes and come back out. When he got back into the car, he told me that Clark had been surveilling me for a long time. They found photographs and journals inside. He told me he knew where Clark was taking Mandy. Lights lit up and sirens blared as we sped away. The detective turned down what looked like an ATV trail in the woods about 15 miles from Clark's house, out in the country. There was a house there, not much of one though. It looked more like a clubhouse house for hunting or something. We went shooting past that, the undercarriage of Renfro's sedan bottoming out on every bump. The trees opened up onto what looked like a frozen, hard, mudding pit. In the distance, an old truck rammed a small car, pushing it along until it rolled over. The truck whipped around, gained speed, and hit the little car again, straight on. Police cruisers sped past us. They started ramming the truck, forcing it away from the car, and a chase through the field was on. Renfro and I pulled up next to the little car. I was hysterically running up to the car. I knew Mandy had to be in there. When I looked through the shattered window, I saw that the entire interior of the car had been removed. She had been knocked around in there, unrestrained. She was unconscious and bleeding. Renfro used his gun to knock away shards of glass that were stuck in the window frame and crawled in. I was holding my breath, hoping she was still alive. He said she was still breathing, but didn't want to move her. He climbed out of the car and radioed for fire and ambulance. Jeffrey Clark was eventually forced into a tree. He tried to flee on foot, but didn't get far. He was arrested, charged with kidnapping and attempted murder, then was sentenced to 25 years in prison. Mandy is paralyzed from the waist down. It took a lot of therapy for her to get over the trauma she experienced over those 2 days. She has moved on now. She has adapted to life in a wheelchair and is just as happy as I am that she is still alive. Every time I look at her, flashes of that horrible day flood my mind. They make me realize how lucky I am. Children are kidnapped every day across the nation. According to the incident studies of missing, abducted, runaway, and thrown away children, ISMART, 2,300 children go missing in the U.S. every day. Many of those children are never reunited with their families. I won't be home for Christmas. Life can be messy, complicated, difficult. Sometimes you can just lose yourself in all of it, and in the process, you can lose sight of the things that actually matter. And then one day a storm comes out of the clear blue sky, and you get blown overboard by the tempest, and all is lost in the blink of an eye. This is what happened to me. I just got caught up in all of the things that don't really matter. Money, career status, an address in the right part of town and elite private schools for the kids, and new luxury import autos, and Swiss-made wristwatches with tasteful but recognizable brand logos. Material things. Then came a day when I realized how unimportant it all was, but it was too late. Still, at first I tried to keep up the pretense of normality in the face of immeasurable loss. I had already bought the 12-foot Douglas fir Christmas tree and put up the holiday decorations all around the house. Family was flying in from 3 different states to visit for the holiday. I had arranged car service from the airport for everyone, a catered gourmet dinner for Christmas Eve, nice gifts for all, and I even took the time to memorize a heartwarming toast to the whole family before we sat down to eat. In the end, I had to just junk this because of the references to my wife and children. More than that, really. It just didn't work at all anymore. What was I supposed to do? I felt some strange obligation to appear unfazed, composed, in control of my emotions and my world. I don't know. That has always been my way, or at least the image I have always wanted to project. It's hard to say how much of it was ever truly real, and how much I just manufactured, for whatever reason. And it doesn't matter any longer anyway. It all happened on the evening of December 23rd, and everyone was flying in the next day. I was just numb afterwards, and didn't have the time or motivation for all the phone calls before those flights took off in the morning, so I was left with no choice but to inform everyone of what happened when they arrived at our house that day. My house. Once they were all there, and I had dodged the uncomfortable questions for as long as I possibly could, I gave a very different and mostly improvised speech from the one I had originally planned. Somehow, I made it to the end with dry eyes, though no one else did. I cried enough the previous night at the hospital. I wasn't sad anymore. I was just angry now. Well, folks, it seems that everyone has had a chance to grab a beverage, and although we are not fully gathered together as a family right now, I would like to proceed with some very unfortunate news that I have to share at this time. Not exactly a toast. Nothing like a toast, actually. The opposite of a toast. Just some words I have to say. I took a deep breath and a long, slow sip of my Macallan scotch. I felt all the eyes on me, and I thought about what I should say, what I could say. I hadn't planned this out. I tried. I just couldn't. I want to thank you all for coming this far to spend the Christmas holiday with us, but I am afraid that us is just me now. Yesterday evening, around 6:30 p.m., Melanie and the kids were driving home from the mall down the road when they were T-boned at the intersection of Torrance and Sepulveda by a 25-year-old off-duty sheriff's deputy named Kyle Langtree, who ran a red light. All 3 of them were killed, but the sheriff's deputy, driving a large SUV, only sustained a concussion and some minor injuries. He is still in St. Mary's right now, but expected to be released within a day or 2. I paused and drained off the rest of my scotch. Everyone stared at me, their faces fixed in various expressions of shock and horror and disbelief, the tears already starting to fall. Hands were raised to cover mouths. I took another deep breath and continued, not even knowing what to say next, only knowing that I had to say something. I kind of muttered the next part down towards my shoes. The local news channels are all reporting that this sheriff's deputy had just left a holiday party at a bar down the street, and the LAPD officer who was first on the scene breathalyzed this guy, and he apparently blew a 1.8 BAC, more than twice the legal level for DUI. When the LAPD cop radioed this in, he was advised that this sheriff's deputy was the younger brother of both the local DA and the U.S. congressman representing this district. This was picked up over the police scanners used by several local news outlets. Instead of being taken to jail, he was taken to St. Mary's, like I said. Apparently, he also had 2 prior DUIs that were both dismissed for no apparent reason. You can read about it all here in today's paper if you want. Front page. I dropped a copy of the local newspaper on the table. I paused again. I didn't know what else to say. My older brother Jamie came up and gave me a powerful hug and whispered some kind words in my ear and cried some tears onto my neck and collar. My Aunt Jane approached me, but then stopped, not knowing what to do. I didn't blame her. I didn't either, but I did my best. You are all my dearest friends and family, and I thank you all so much for coming to be here. I am just so sorry that it has come under these terrible circumstances. I set my empty glass on a coaster on the table. Somehow it was still important for me to appear unrattled, composed. The coaster was somehow still important. We all have to do what we all have to do for the love of our family, and you have all shown and proven that by being here right now. I love you all dearly, and I'm so sorry to have to share this terrible news with you at this time. I pretended to get choked up. Then I lowered my head and excused myself and went to my bedroom to get what I needed as my family broke out in open gasps and cries and barely restrained sobs and sorrows in the living room. I quietly slipped out the side door and drove my Mercedes AMG GT to St. Mary's Hospital. I parked it in a handicapped spot when I got there. I wouldn't be needing it any longer. I decided to leave it to my nephew Nicholas once I had a chance to meet with my lawyer. He was a good kid who just graduated from Penn State, and I knew he loved that car. He deserved it. I decided to set him up with some cash too, just to help him get started. You never know what life has in store for you. I certainly didn't, and that's how I ended up here, sitting in this small cell in the LA County Jail, spending Christmas Day all by myself, eating a bologna sandwich for dinner, or trying to anyway. I don't have much appetite. This is the first time in my entire life that I have spent Christmas alone. I will be on suicide watch for the next 48 hours, and after that, the wheels and gears of the legal system will make their slow and inevitable turns, and I will end up in Pelican Bay or San Quentin or someplace like that for the rest of my life. Murder 1, assault with a deadly weapon, menacing, illegal parking in a designated handicap space. Haha. They have me. They have me dead to rights. They have me on video for all of it. I don't care. It was unfortunate that I had to put down that security guard who tried to stop me from reaching Deputy Langtree's hospital room, though. I shot low, in the center of his thigh. Hopefully he will be okay. Hopefully I missed the femoral artery. I tried my best, but it all happened pretty fast and I'm no marksman. It could have been worse, I guess. At least he was already in a level 1 trauma unit. Young guy. I feel bad about that part. They won't tell me anything about how he's doing, or if he has a wife and kids or anything like that. I hope he's okay. I will leave some money for him too once I meet with my lawyer and update my last will and testament, for whatever that might be worth. I don't know what else I can do. I just feel really bad about it. I never wanted to hurt anyone else. Anyway, they can't keep me on suicide watch forever. And like I said, we all have to do what we all have to do for the love of our family. I did what I had to do for the love of my family. I have no regrets. Anyone want the rest of this bologna sandwich? I'm not hungry. Merry Christmas. I think this one will probably be my last, but I hope you enjoy many more, engulfed in the warmth and love of all your family and friends. I just need to find a rope. Hamster Owl. Trigger warning. Crime scene, murder, suggestion of sexual violence. Douglas hadn't felt his stomach stir on the job for years, not since he was green out of the academy. Something about the blood spatter against the kids' toys, though. It had sent his head spinning, dizziness threatening to undermine his hard-won reputation. The bright, dancing geometric shapes that adorned the red-stained sheets and curtains were not helping matters. Thankfully, the girl's body had already been removed. He averted his gaze to the ceiling and traced the lines of the Artex pattern while taking deep breaths and composing himself. Putting his heavy case down in the doorway, he steeled his will and finally stepped inside. Douglas methodically placed his feet on the clean areas of carpet, stepping over the red smears that had been spread all over the room. Slowly, he made his way over to the grim-faced detective, who was already surveying the scene. "If you're gonna lose your lunch, Doug, please do it outside," Bishop remarked, not looking up from where he crouched, picking through the youngster's possessions with the blunt end of a pen. "I'm okay. It just got me for a second. Not seen one this bad since '87 and the Dilby murders down in Reading. I'll be all right." It's a damn shame, that's for sure. Sweet girl, going by all the stuffed animals and posters. My kid's got a thing for boy bands too, he said, gesturing around at the walls that looked like they'd been at the business end of a meat grinder. "You've certainly got your work cut out for you, ready for a long night." "Absolutely, sir. It'll be worth every coffee to nail whatever sick son of a bitch could do something like this," Douglas said, his muscles turning from jelly to iron at the resolve his own words invoked. "Good. Well, I'm done here for now. Do your thing and get me the results as fast as you can. The father is in the back of a car already, but he's denying it all, doing a grand job of playing the distraught, loving parent. So, I'll need whatever you can get me to pin him," Bishop said as he pulled off a pair of sweaty latex gloves and threw them into a hazmat bag in the hallway. "Ever consider it might not have been him and you're torturing a grieving parent?" Douglas asked to his retreating back. "Come on, Doug. How long you been doing this? It's always the dad," the detective said, turning when he reached the top of the stairs. "I'd start with the machete stuck in the bed head if I were you. But hey, I'm not the scientist." Douglas took up his large case, unclasped it, and opened it wide on the floor of the hallway outside the girl's bedroom door. He pressed his shoulders against one wall to let a beat officer past and swore under his breath at the close confines. It was almost easier in the woods, although the results were undoubtedly better from inside a sealed home. He snapped on his own gloves, grabbed a Sharpie and a handful of plastic bags and went to work. With a roll of his eyes, he grabbed the machete first. Of course, that was marked vital. Then he gathered all the jewelry she'd been wearing and had been left behind by the morticians. Most of it was plastic, brightly colored and in the shape of butterflies or flowers. He pulled hairs and fibers from the bed and carpet, then combed the room from top to bottom for any dropped items. Nothing turned up. Sheets, clothes, carpet, and curtain swatches all went into larger bags. Even those fundamentals took hours, mostly because he was more fastidious than most. He had lost count of the cases that had been won thanks to his diligence. Having worked with Bishop for almost a decade, he knew all too well that whichever way it went, a grieving father's future rested on his work alone. The detective had already found his man. Sipping a hot coffee from a cardboard cup, he scanned the room from its center. Taking a break had the tendency to reveal more than the close-up work. Sometimes you had to take a step back and think. He marked a Blockbuster video on the desk. He would fill out the forms to get it returned, but he doubted the shop would ever see it again. Once they saw the news, they would probably refuse it anyway. What looked like her diary was tucked under the edge of the mattress. He made a mental note to grab that, and in the same vein, thought to check for any hidey holes in vents or behind furniture. Girls of an age stashed plenty of secrets. His eyes fell on the mountain of stuffed toys, wedged against the dresser and covered in a mist of dried blood droplets. He had avoided it until then, worried it might set off his queasy reaction a second time. While forcing his gaze to wander across it, two beady yellow eyes caught his attention. With a smirk, he put down his coffee, quickly reapplied the gloves, and strode over to greet them. "Well, look at you," he said, pulling out what could only be described as a hamster owl. The freakish chimera stared back at him, almost with its own intent. "Furby, right?" "Oh, woo-woo, whoa!" The demented toy yelled as it came to life in his hands, batting its eyelids and twitching its ears. He almost threw it across the room in surprise, but managed to control the impulse and, holding it at a full arm's length, set it down on the girl's desk. "Damn thing!" he yelled to a series of chuckles from the officers stationed outside. He went back to the list of tasks he had assigned himself, but throughout his bagging and tagging, he was constantly assaulted by an unintelligible babbling. The cursed doll would go quiet, and then out of nowhere, at high volume, holler at Douglas. After the third time of jumping out of his skin, he stalked back to the desk in a fury. "I remember the ads for you," he said through gritted teeth, fully aware he was now talking to it. "Remember," it interrupted. "Yes, remember. Very clever. I remember that you are supposed to be smart. Hell, I'm pretty sure there was a ban on you being brought into the station, in case you could listen in on things you shouldn't. Something about spy software or AI even." "Remember!" the Furby squawked again. You don't seem so smart to me. Just a damn novelty. Do me a favor and shut up!" Douglas roared. He turned his back on it, not wanting to waste any more time trying to figure out how to turn it off. He was almost done and was feeling the impatience of the late hour and the clouded thinking it brought. Yet, before he could take a second step, he spun around at the words the toy belted at his back. "You're mine, bitch." He stood frozen, head cocked to one side and looking into its demon-like eyes. Surely not. "What did you say? Did you remember?" He ventured, not sure if he was pushing the limits of what was reasonable. "Remember, you're mine, bitch. You can't prance around naked in your window like that and expect me not to want you. I might be your neighbor, but I'm still a man." Douglas shook his head with raised eyebrows, let out a sigh of disbelief, and bagged the toy. He marked it as vital. Hopefully it would be enough. Cuts like a knife. I look at the sign over the door. Beauville Historical Society, my new home. I am now an artifact, a historical thing. How have I gotten to be this old, this obsolete? Does anyone even use grinding wheels anymore to sharpen things? It has been a long time since I have felt anyone's hands on me. Prior to coming here, I had been sitting in a dusty old barn for years, unused, unloved. That is, until someone decided to move me. A tattooed young man wearing an earring, a stranger to me, threw me in the back of his pickup and brought me here, dropping me off unceremoniously at the front door. He then sped away as if he were relieved to be rid of me. I have to say that hurt my feelings. He slammed me down and didn't even say goodbye before speeding away in his monster truck with the jacked up wheels and loud muffler. I try to look on the bright side. No use crying. Tears might make my metal frame and seat rust, although my heavy stone will be no worse for the wear. Chin up, I tell myself. At least now that I'm here, occupying a place of honor by the front door, perhaps I will be looked at and admired, if not used. I look around and spot other artifacts nearby, my peers. The first thing I notice is a horse plow, the kind that has a platform, really just a metal square, for its driver to stand upon while he steers the horses. I remember, back in the day, when my master had one just like it, pulled by giant, strong horses, a breed called Percherons. I remember it was a long, slow process. The horses were very strong, but sometimes hard to control. Nevertheless, the plow did a remarkable job, plowing deep, even furrows in the rocky soil. Next to the plow, there is an ancient piano with scrolled curlicues and whorls carved into its polished mahogany woodwork. There is no rhyme or reason to this crazy museum. Outdoor farm equipment is jumbled together with indoor furniture and other sundry items. The piano's deep, dark, polished wood is still in good shape, but the ivory has worn off its keys, making the keyboard look like a person with blackened or missing teeth. I suspect the piano needs tuning. I wonder if it even can be played. It looks like the kind of piano that has been sitting for years in someone's dark basement, with mice possibly making a nest inside. Alongside the piano, I spot a spinning wheel with a foot pedal, an ancient freestanding gas oven and stove with spindly legs, a roll-top desk along with an inkwell and feathered pen missing some of its quills, and other ancient worn items too numerous to mention. Like the spinning wheel, I also have a wheel, a circular, thick, heavy stone. The wheel is activated by a foot pedal, which causes it to spin and sharpen things into a fine point. The person doing the sharpening has to bend down and press the object firmly into my wheel for an extended period of time. It's a little bit like riding a bizarre bicycle. The ride is sometimes long and arduous. The user has to be patient, giving rise to the old saying of keeping one's nose to the grindstone to achieve good results. Back in the day, I was used to sharpen knives, axes, saws, really all kinds of things. It has been a very long time, however, since anyone has used me to sharpen anything. I honestly can't remember the last time I felt cold metal of any kind pressing into my hard stone. I am now over 100 years old, but am still in great shape, if I do say so myself. Still firm, solid. I can still sharpen with the best of them. I stand ready and willing to sharpen whatever comes my way, although I should have learned my lesson based on my past mistakes. I wonder idly if anyone cares about my abilities. What will they write on my informational placard? Will anyone even read it? Every object in the museum has a brief description displayed. I imagine the curator of the museum probably will stick to brief facts. How old I am, who owned me, what kinds of things I sharpened long ago. I think my viewers deserve a more exciting story, however. They deserve to know the truth. I should really write that story myself. Maybe I'm a tad conceited, but I would like everyone to sit up and take notice of what I can do. The results that can be achieved with a sharp tool or weapon. The results you see are really quite astounding and deadly. Once upon a time, a very long time ago, I sharpened something to a very fine, edgy point. That point was used for something dangerous. Although I am proud of my abilities, I must confess that I feel somewhat guilty about the whole thing. I guess you could say I was an accessory to a crime. My master, we called him Big John due to his immense size, came to me one day for service. He bent over me for hours, keeping his nose to the proverbial and actual grindstone, sharpening his favorite knife into a razor-fine point. The knife had a long, hooked blade. He kept it in a black leather sheath in the pocket of his overalls. It didn't look like the kind of knife a farmer should carry. It wasn't a knife for whittling, or cutting branches or barbed wire, or even gutting the catfish that swam in our creek. No, that knife was a weapon he kept in his pocket just in case. Big John was a hothead, you see, the type of man who always believed in carrying a weapon, convinced that he might one day need it. He was also on the prowl, not for a perceived enemy, but for a wife. He was convinced that the farm needed a woman's touch, convinced he needed to sire some children to carry on his bloodline. He was somewhat of an old-fashioned man, wanting an adoring little woman and a whole passel of children surrounding him, working alongside him on his beloved farm. To achieve his goal, after a long, hard week farming, one Friday night, he took himself off to town, spiffed up in his best overalls. The knife occupied its usual sheath in his pocket. Big John had his eyes on a young barmaid named Sarah. Sarah was the daughter of the tavern's owner. She was a buxom blonde, cheerful and friendly, serving her customers with alacrity and a bright smile. She seemed to be a hard worker, keeping up with the demands of a rowdy, thirsty crowd effortlessly. Clad in a low-cut, frilled blouse and a flouncy skirt, she immediately caught Big John's attention. Being a practical man and a farmer, he noted with approval her broad, childbearing hips, swishing along as she carried a wooden tray filled with heavy steins of beer. Usually she could deflect the wandering hands of intoxicated, grabby men who got overly friendly when she served them their beer and whiskey. One man, in particular, an uptight, prissy banker with a gray comb-over on his bald head, would not take no for an answer. Forgoing her usual politeness, she slammed down his beer and turned hurriedly to leave, knowing that he would undoubtedly try to detain her. Sure enough, the man's whiskey breath was hot in her face, and he grabbed her around the waist. "Stop, sir. I need to get going." She forced a smile to dull her sharp words. "What's your hurry, darling?" he slurred, grasping her tighter. She once again tried pulling away, to no avail. For a man who sat behind a desk all day, his grip was surprisingly firm. Big John, who was sitting one table over, felt fury rising in his chest. He stumbled to his feet and quickly stomped over. "I believe the lady told you to remove your hands, sir." He choked out the last word. In his opinion, the man did not deserve to be treated like a gentleman. The good manners his mama had instilled in him prevailed, however, forcing him to be marginally polite. "What you gonna do about it, farm boy?" the man sneered. Sarah squirmed in the man's grasp, trying to pull herself free. Big John saw red. "Who you calling a boy?" "You, of course," the man said coolly. "I'm no boy." Big John spat. Suddenly, he pulled the knife out from its sheath in his pocket and brandished it menacingly at the banker. The man at last dropped his arms from around the barmaid's waist. "Whoa there, big fella. No need to get violent. Put that thing away." Big John continued to hold the knife. All at once, the banker's hand shot out like lightning, and he knocked the knife away from Big John. The knife clattered to the floor. The bar room was suddenly silent, its customers frozen in stupefied fascination at the scene rapidly unfolding in front of them. Both men bent at once to pick up the knife. Being smaller and more agile, the banker was the first to reach the weapon. He raised it in the air triumphantly, the knife's sharp metal gleaming in the candlelight, emitting an eerie glow. "Give me that back," Big John yelled. "Never!" screamed the banker. The two men were now struggling over the knife, Big John trying unsuccessfully to wrestle it away from the banker, who was surprisingly strong for a skinny, middle-aged desk jockey. In one last desperate attempt, the banker brought the knife down forcefully, stabbing it into Big John's thickly muscled chest. Big John made a horrible gurgling noise and fell heavily to the floor, the blood pooling around him. The metal part of the knife sank deeply into the big man's chest, only its black handle protruding. Yes, my friends, Big John died. I am sorry to say that my sharpening skills led to his demise. I never saw that coming. It still tears me up inside. When I first heard the news, I shed a few tears. Someone had to wipe me off with an old towel. They wondered if the barn roof was leaking at the time. Luckily, I didn't rust. Big John was a good man. May he rest in peace. He was only trying to protect his lady love. Maybe if the knife hadn't been so sharp, he might have lived. But no, he bled out. Like a stuck pig. His parents buried him at the base of the big hill, down by the creek, on the farm, resting on his beloved land, the land he had hoped one day to pass down to his children. Sarah, the barmaid, came to his funeral. The children they might have had together never came to be. The knife, I am sorry to say, was never recovered. I don't know whatever happened to it. I am sure its point is just as sharp to this very day. I still feel guilty about the whole thing. My own pain cuts like that knife. When I do something, I do it right. Big John was the same way. If only he hadn't kept his nose so long to my grindstone. It's possible he just might have lived. A night out. It's 1:30 in the morning and the bass is hammering so hard I feel it beat in time with my heart. It could be my adrenaline. No one sees me. I'm invisible to them. I've always had the ability to make myself invisible. Most of my life was spent being invisible to others. It's a hell of a superpower right now. The lights are flashing and the beautiful bodies of strangers are grinding against each other to music. It's an odd mating ritual. I don't understand it. You get dressed up, made up, and go writhe against a stranger in the hopes of either getting laid or a prospect of getting laid at a later date. And maybe, just maybe, this night of painted-up grinding on a stranger will lead to a relationship. Isn't that how I got here, though? The bar is backlit, and the bottles glow with ephemeral promises of a good time. The floor is sticky, where hopeful patrons have bumped into each other or tried to maneuver around each other unsuccessfully. Hopes and dreams and promises all spilled out, laid bare, and left as a sticky residue on a dirty floor. I amble through the labyrinth of bodies attempting to make my way to the bathroom. I've been here before, to this club, not this situation, 1,000,000 times before. Wealthy frat boys and the girls that hope to marry them and become trophy wives congregate here. Beautiful people living beautiful Instagram lives, worshiping at the altar of materialism and lust. I used to belong here. Not that I fall into either category of wealthy frat boy or gold digger. I fell in between, a guest by proximity. Being beautiful has its advantages. Yet, even being beautiful, standing out just enough to get the invite, I blend in and go unnoticed. Except by her. She noticed me. Everyone noticed her. Tonight, I'm anything but beautiful. I'm caked in dirt and blood, a backpack on my shoulder. It's dark, and everyone is so self-absorbed or so intent on their mission of hooking up that they don't see me. The bouncer was so busy flirting with a hopeful girl trying to get in that he didn't even see me slip past him and through the door. I know I'm leaving a trail of evidence behind me. Flakes of dried blood and caked mud sloughing off with each step that I take. The vibration of the thrumming bass does nothing to help this. I'm careful to avoid the bar area where it is more lit up and I'm more prone to bump into someone and get noticed. But I'm invisible. I was invisible when I came in upon him tonight too. Her and him. He didn't see me coming. She did though. She always saw me. A group of gorgeous girls come tumbling out of the bathroom, The one in the middle rubs her nose and sniffles. It doesn't take a genius to know why. I move back into the shadows and avoid eye contact. They don't see me. I slip in and thank whichever gods that exist. The bathroom is blissfully empty. I throw the lock in place. Within seconds, someone is pounding on the door. It's ironic that this is where I ended up. It's where it started a year before. Her and I. Escaping into this bathroom, locking the door, her back against the wall. I throw my backpack on the floor and turn the faucet on. She fell in love with me. I fell harder. He never gave her up and refused to let her go. I begin to remove my blood and mud-caked clothes. I take care to put them in the trash can, moving around the other garbage so that they slip to the bottom. He promised her that he would always own her. She would always be his. We took our concerns to the cops. They didn't care. They didn't listen. He never stopped. According to the cops, his feelings were just hurt. He's a good guy with a promising future. He would eventually stop, they said. But he didn't. He wouldn't. I pull the trash bags from the stalls and put it on top of the pile of garbage, camouflaging my blood and dirt-covered clothes. I stick my head under the faucet and let the hot water run over my scalp and face. The way she touched my face or ran her fingers through my hair. The way she told me I was the most beautiful girl she's ever met. She saw me, really saw me. Being seen is a powerful drug. The mud and the blood rinse from my hair and face down the drain with my tears and with my hopes. This is not what I wanted to become. I didn't have a choice. He wouldn't stop. He wouldn't leave her alone. He wouldn't leave us be. I have to hurry and finish cleaning up before the last call. The hot water reminds me of the feeling of his hot blood on my hands. I didn't expect it to flow like that. Viscous and hot, and so much of it. There is more angry pounding on the door, shouting. I need to move faster. My eyes look dead. I watched his eyes as he died, as the light went out. I slick my hair back into a tight knot, reminiscent of an old Robert Palmer video. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Google it. It was iconic a million years ago. I've always loved the classics. So much more raw than today's auto-tuned bullshit. She loved to listen to the classics with me, laugh at the videos as we streamed them on our television. I add my heavy black eye makeup and dark burgundy lipstick. It looks dramatic against the paleness of my face. His face went pale as his eyes went dark and his blood drained so fast. I pull out a thin black tank top and black pants and throw them on. I rub the dirt and blood off of my chunky Doc Martens and throw on my necklaces. I look once more at my hands, hands that just killed a man and dragged his body to a river and dumped him like trash, and make sure to clear any remaining residue from underneath my nails. He shouldn't have tried to do what he was about to do. Not to her. I wouldn't let that happen. He had to know I wouldn't let that happen. He had a death wish. The pounding on the door is getting more intense. I take a wet paper towel and clean up the flakes of mud and blood that fell around me as I cleaned myself up. I double-check that my clothes that I shed cannot be seen in the trash can. I check the sink. I check my makeup. Flawless. I open the door and make my way back through the crowd of angry girls who were made to wait. And she's there, waiting for me, against the bar, just like the first night where it all began. She watched me kill a man, and she is still here for me. She still loves me, because she knows I did it all for her, and I would do it again. The lights come on, letting everyone know it's time to go home. I notice that eyes fall on us, see us, as they adjust to the bright light. The music cuts off. The party is over. She takes my hand, and we make our way out in the crowd. No one will ever know, except for her and I, obscure recollection. "Dad, where are the yams at?" Frankie yelled up the basement stairs. "Behind the peas, son," Dad yelled back. As Frankie walked to turn the light switch off, he looked over at his father's terrible masonry job that he did right after Frankie's 12th birthday. Until recently, the basement had always been a place Frankie's mother and father never allowed them in. The only things down there were various odds and ends, his father's tools and the freezer next to the pantry. Frankie flipped the switch, putting the basement back into darkness again. "Jenny, did Robert tell you what happened at school other day?" asked Frankie. "No, he never calls me anymore," said Jenny. As Mom was mashing the potatoes Dad had cleaned and prepped for her, Frankie handed Dad the yams he requested. "Well, I met Susie. She's in my biology class. She also wants to be an X-ray tech. She is so cool," said Frankie. "Oh, Frankie, another one? What happened to, what's her name?" asked Jenny. "Rebecca," Frankie said somberly. "Yay, what happened to her?" asked Jenny. "I have no idea. She just disappeared. Everything seemed to be going great. Then she just ghosted me," said Frankie. "She probably ran off with someone else. I never liked that girl," said Mom. "Frankie," yelled Robert from the living room. "Come here. I think this is the lion's year." "Okay, hang on," Frankie yelled back. "Better go and watch the game, son," Dad said. "Yay, okay," replied Frankie. It was Thanksgiving for the Goldsmiths, a real family affair. All the kids were out back with their father, Jenny's husband, playing in the snow. Mom was trying to finish the pies, and Jenny was doing the usual Wordle on her phone. Robert was in the living room watching the game, the usual Thanksgiving chaos. As Frankie went to sit with Robert, there was an abundance of chips, dips, and cakes on the coffee table. "They are killing the Bears," said Robert happily. "What's the score?" asked Frankie. 38-10. It's going to be their year, I swear," said Robert. As Frankie kicked back watching the game with his brother, the kids were on the back deck taking off their snow gear, and Robert started complaining. He was not a kid person. The three siblings were all completely different due to being adopted. However, they were still solid in their bonds with each other, and Robert always kept his opinions to himself. "My name is Frankie Goldsmith. I am here on Thanksgiving telling a story so screwed up, it's hard to tell it without it sounding like a Criminal Minds episode. No, seriously. If I was outside my head, I wouldn't believe it myself. Let's get back to it." Frankie was in college chasing a degree as an X-ray technician. His sister Jenny was the oldest, being in her mid-30s with 3 children. Her husband, James, was a salesman with a local company. He was a good guy who went to work, came home, and enjoyed his simple and organic life. "Everyone to the table! It's time to eat!" yelled Dad. Everyone rushed to the table. Mom's cooking was impeccable. This was one of 3 major meals cooked at the Goldsmiths that was off-the-chain delicious. The other 2 are Easter and Christmas New Year's. All the food was great and unique to its holiday. As they gathered around and sat, Jenny's twins, Lenny and Lucy, started arguing. "I want to sit next to him," shouted Lucy. "No, I am," argued Lenny. "Stop it, you two." "Olivia, you sit next to Paw Paw," James said to his oldest daughter. Lenny and Lucy seemed to argue about everything. We all settled into our seats and grabbed our neighbor's hand so Dad can say grace, which was one of our family traditions. As Dad began, that's when this story goes from 0 to 100 real quick. "Father, as we gather here today, we give thanks to you." Crack. Boom. front door exploded open, and in rushed at least 30 police officers, fully armed and yelling for everyone to get on the ground. 2 of the officers grabbed the children and rushed them out the hole where our parents' front door used to be. Now, let's pause. You gotta be wondering, what in the hell is going on? Let's back it up just a little bit, like 6 months. We will get back to it, I promise. First, I gotta catch you up some so you understand what the hell is happening. Jenny showed up around 10:30 a.m. to talk to Mom about the new outfits she purchased for Olivia. I was at the table studying for an exam I had later that week. Jenny chatted to Mom about the clothes, then she started to explain that she saw a TikTok about a cold case that reminded her of a reoccurring dream she had. Mom's face went blank and she asked, "What did you do, Jenny?" "Nothing. What do you mean?" Jenny replied. The room lost all its happy energy as I picked up Mom's vibes. Oblivious, Jenny continued to talk about this TikTok and how she thought it was about her birth parents. "Mom, you said the orphanage told you that my parents were very young and just left me there?" Jenny asked. "Yes, dear. Now enough of this talk. I need to go to the grocery store." "You two lock up if you leave," Mom said. Something was definitely up to something. Mom appeared so rattled as she was fumbling about. She left in such a hurry she forgot to grab her phone. Jenny came over and sat at the table with me. "Frankie, I have to tell you something, but you can't tell Mom and Dad," Jenny said with a serious expression. I nodded and she asked, "Have you ever heard of 23andMe?" "No. What's that?" Frankie asked. "They use DNA to find out your ancestral family tree. I sent off my DNA and discovered that I am from Northern Africa," Jenny said. "Okay, why the sudden interest?" Frankie asked. "That is not important. What is important is that I found out who my birth parents were," Jenny said. "Were?" Frankie asked, puzzled. "Jenny, what is going on?" "Hang on." Jenny got up and walked over to the counter where Mom's phone was and picked it up. She tried to unsuccessfully unlock the phone twice. "What are you doing?" Frankie yelled. "That's Mom's phone." "You are acting crazy." "I got to know for sure, Frankie," Jenny said. Frankie paused a minute, sighed heavily and said, "Try our birth years." The phone unlocked and Jenny started to go through it, and it was all normal stuff. "It doesn't make sense," Jenny said quietly. "Will you tell me what is going on?" "What did you think was going to be on it?" Frankie asked. "Frankie, Mom and Dad kidnapped us," Jenny blurted out. "There is no orphanage. My name is not Jennifer Goldsmith, it's Ada Abimbola. My parents and I went missing 31 years ago." "What? This can't be true. Mom and Dad would not do this," Frankie yelled. "Frankie, I researched it. It's true. I talked to a detective, and we cannot tell them we know. We must act normally. The detective believes there are more children they kidnapped besides me, you and Robert. The police know and discovered who you are too," Jenny said. Frankie knew it was true. As hard as it was to believe, he could feel it. What now? This was all he could think. He walked over and sat on the couch, and Jenny came over and sat next to him, knowing exactly what he was feeling. Betrayal, hurt, and curiosity. Who were these people? "Frankie, we must work with the police. James knows all about it, but we cannot tell Robert," Jenny said seriously. "The police are watching Mom and Dad. They think they are holding another family now. Can you meet with Detective Hunt? He will explain everything to you," Jenny continued. "Okay, now that you are all caught up, what now? Should I leave it alone and just walk away? No, you say? All right, I will finish the story the best way I can, but it doesn't get better. If you're sure? Okay, let's get to it. Just as the two officers brought the children outside, Dad jumped up and ran towards a cabinet. Pop, pop. The police shot him just as he was reaching into the cabinet. Robert kept yelling, "Can someone please tell me what is going on?" I yelled over at him to just do as they say. Mom got onto the floor, and it was obvious by her face that she knew exactly what was going on. The gig was up. As I was lying on the floor, I looked over at Dad, and he was not moving, just bleeding out. I did not feel any remorse. The officers handcuffed Mother and led her out the door. They let the rest of us get up. Jenny, James, and I took Robert over to the couch and told him what was going on. He just sat staring blankly, not saying anything. Life seemed to come to a halt after that. Everything played out exactly like Detective Hunt said, except one detail. They never expected that one. Overlooked detail. The police took Dad, or Thomas Dunning's phone, and found evidence of everything. Information and photos of all the children they abducted, the ones they sold, the parents they killed. In the basement, they found the remains of over 40 bodies behind the block wall, as well as a torture chamber. They also discovered multiple storage units spread across 7 states. There was one thing that Detective Hunt could not figure out until this day, right now. As I tell this story, there is one more loose end. What changed 18 years ago? Why did they change their MO? Detective Hunt cross-referenced everything. Who was helping them abduct these children? That is when I figured it out. Well, it was something I just felt. Do you want to know? Okay, I'll tell you. It has been about 6 months since the takedown. This was the weirdest affair Colorado had ever seen. Jenny, Frankie, and Robert tried to move on, but it was almost impossible because their life was now on every news station. Frankie tried moving twice, with the same result. One day, Robert was visiting, and he and Frankie were talking when it happened. Something Robert said caught Frankie's attention, and he knew. The only way Robert could know that was if he was a part of it. Frankie bought a gun for protection, and he tried to act normally as he went for it. He slid the drawer open as Robert watched. Oh no, it was gone. Frankie looked up and Robert motioned him to sit down. The end? Or was this all an obscure recollection? R.I.P. Michael Brent Haddix. I want to dedicate this one to my brother. At 6:30 p.m. Saturday, my brother passed away. He had been battling liver failure for 2 years. Thanks everyone at Reedsy. You guys really are my friends and colleagues. I found writing and left alcoholism behind. This community has been my therapy to keep me away from this disease. I miss you already, Michael, sipping tea with a pretty monster. Mothers keep secrets from their families for good reasons. Jody's mom, for example, sleeps around. Amanda's mom snorts a little coke. The worst thing I can say about my mom is that she smokes. But all that changed today when I came home from college earlier than planned. Home. The place where Mom ruled. The woman who gave me unending advice on how to keep things looking good down there. The woman who overshared intimate details of her personal life with me. It was nearly midnight when I unlocked the door, hoping Mom was in bed so I could do the same. Unfortunately, she was up. In the living room, nude, save for a pair of hooker heels, strangling someone with pantyhose. College, for all its good points, did not prepare me for this. There was no curricular path to take that dealt with mothers in the act of killing someone while wearing no clothes. so I just stood there and watched the victim struggle before going limp. "Hello, dear. You're home early." Mom smiled the smile that garnered her an obscene amount of money on the public speaking circuit. If she was nonplussed, I missed it. "What the fuck, Mom?" My university vocabulary deserted me at the moment. "I'll get dressed and make us a nice cup of tea, dear. And don't be vulgar." I didn't want tea, but I got it anyway. Black tea. Strong enough to float a horseshoe on. Sweet enough to send me into diabetic shock. Mom thought tea was a cure for all ills, especially when delivering bad news. When she and Dad decided to get divorced, the news came with tea. I had no idea how to start this conversation. What I did was glare at her until she spoke. It had to be done. Mom reported this as if murder were a necessary evil, like dealing with periods, shopping with your mom, or figuring out the right bra to buy for the senior prom. Who was he? This wasn't what I really wanted to know, but I was afraid to ask her what the dead woman's sins were. She. Mom sipped her tea and nibbled on a Girl Scout cookie. Trefoils. It took me a moment to digest this little nugget of information. Since the person had a bag over their head and was fully dressed, I think I can be excused for not knowing the gender of the dead person. "Okay, Mom, let me get this straight. You were nude and you strangled a woman to death." Well, I had to get her here first, so I honey-trapped her." "What's that?" "A honey trap? Using sexual promises to lure someone to a place where you can do what you want to do to them." "But..." My voice trailed off, unsure of how I wanted to object to Mom's behavior. Mom stood up. "While you're busy trying to construct a complete sentence, I'll just nip out and load the body in the car. I have a date with a band saw that simply won't wait." I drank the tea. It helped. I fell asleep waiting for Mom to return from her errands. I refused to think about the incident since it involved some sort of saw, so I popped one of her sleeping pills and crashed. It was afternoon when I woke up. The events of the night seemed like a horrible dream, but I had evidence that it happened. Mom's slut heels were still in the living room, reposing innocently under the coffee table. "Good afternoon, sunshine. Tea?" I could write a treatise on how I didn't want tea, but I would get it anyway. "Tell me." I hoped the first 2 words I uttered today would be sufficient for the day. They weren't. "Sweetie, do you remember Uncle Zach?" "Barely." I sipped the tea. Mom's tea should be weaponized by the Pentagon. "Well, he was fond of you and your female cousins. Too fond, if you get my meaning." I stared at her, puzzled. "So fond," she continued, "that he would often put his hands in inappropriate places." "Okay, I don't remember that. He used to give me a box of chocolates and a stuffed animal when he visited. And that's as far as he would get with you, dear." So, I did what any right-thinking mother would do in this situation. I killed him. I asked for another cup of tea with extra sugar. How? God, I had so many other questions about the matter, but my brain wouldn't allow them to get to my mouth. Stupid, stupid brain. She explained. Sliced the carotid, dumped him into the bayou. Watched the alligators spin him to the bottom. I don't know if he died from my wound or from drowning by alligator. Did you know? Mom paused to take a sip of tea. That alligators bury their food and let it rot for a bit before eating it? No, Mom, I didn't know that, I said matter-of-factly. Mom sighed. Anyway, that started me thinking. What am I doing with my life? Sure, I'm making tons of money and I have a beautiful daughter, but is that enough? Don't I owe it to the world to get rid of as many bad people as possible? The mother-daughter relationship throughout history is fraught with differing opinions, tastes, and morals. I expected to argue with my mom over things, but this wasn't a discussion I ever expected to have. By killing people? Bad people, Mom said, correcting me, raising her right forefinger in the air. We have laws, Mom. The problem being, sweetie, that the law enforcement authorities always act after the fact. They come to the rescue after the person is dead, raped, or otherwise victimized. And then, well what? How successful are they? She had a point. Which brings me to this. I leaned forward and stared at my mom. You seduced a woman? Mom smiled a smile that would make Dracula have second thoughts. Yes. I'm very good at seduction. Mom! I'm pretty. I still have my figure and a certain coquettish mannerism that others are drawn to. Fuck. Don't be vulgar, dear. We sat in silence for a few minutes. It was an uncomfortable silence on my part, but Mom seemed to enjoy it. She flipped through a fashion catalog, clucking her tongue at some of the modern attire. But that's Mom. Old-fashioned about fashion, but quite liberal when it comes to liberating the living from breathing. You have something to tell me? I sat up, stunned. Given the recent events, the news I had for her had been forgotten. The momentous revelation now seemed picayune. I did, but I think your actions have eclipsed my news. Mom grinned. I see that the expensive education is paying off. How many people have you killed, Mom? I was loath to share my information right now. Didn't seem like the right time, what with my mom's confessions. And I know what you're thinking. How many people has she sent to the grave? I don't think I want to know because the number, I'm sure, is big. And I'll tell you why I think this. My mom is crazy. Two things were revealed in the next 10 minutes. One, Mom had, thus far, killed 37 people. I say thus far because she's not a woman to give up on her dreams. Two, she already knew I was gay. How did you know? As good as it felt to not be censured by a parent for one's sexual proclivities, it was still a bombshell. You wore a lot of plaid in high school. My mom took my hand across the table. Dear, no woman looks good in plaid. That's it? Heavens no. You listened to a lot of Bikini Kill and L7. So what? And you slept with Jody in your room many, many nights. Yeah, okay. Girls do that. Nude? She got me there. I spent the rest of the day avoiding Mom. By that, I mean that I went out, had a few drinks, and I may or may not have kissed a couple of women. It's kind of a blur, which is what I was hoping for. When I got up the next day, Mom was gone. In typical style, she left me a note that said everything and explained nothing. Be back next week, sweetie. I hope you still adore your mother, despite what you perceive as her faults. As for me, I'm proud my daughter has the courage to accept who she is. There is a nice mushroom and onion galette in the fridge, and a rather nice bottle of Pinot from Oregon. Much better than the California Pinot, don't you think? I spent the week wrestling with the issue. Seriously, how does one deal with a homicidal mother? I could turn her in, but that comes with a whole new set of problems that I didn't want to deal with. I could ask her to stop, but I'd bet my K.D. Lang album collection that she wouldn't. I could help her, but the thought turned my stomach. Or I could just accept my mom the way she is. Easier said than done. I'm famished, dear. Care to grab lunch? Mom had been back 5 minutes, and as far as I can tell, she took several hits of speed on the flight home. Since I was in the process of trying to accept my mom as she was, I accepted the invitation. Maybe being around her more would ease my unease, settle my unsettled mind. The local pastry shop was her choice, oddly enough. I say oddly enough because she always complained about the line servers. They have the best tea, sweetie, and a kouign-amann that simply sends one's tongue to nirvana. I'll order 2 for us, along with a pot of tea. What I wanted was a Coke and a Danish. Sure thing, Mom. The line wasn't long, so we zipped through, laden with our treasures. Mom picked a spot against the wall, just in case a miscreant came in and started a brouhaha. Mom had a strategy for everything, and a gun. You just want to shoot somebody, don't you? Sarcasm isn't my usual mode of interacting with my mom. Desperate pleading was my game. Not until I finished my tea and pastry. Mom graced me with another crocodile smile. Nice. Very cultured. The girls behind the counter are extra surly today, dear. They're always a little ungracious, though. Is that why you told them to smile more and to ponder their assuredly bleak futures less? Obviously, Mom said, after swallowing her pastry and taking a sip of tea. She would never speak with food in her mouth. Hell, she wouldn't even nod with food in her mouth. My mom was a motivational speaker who had written 2 bestsellers, A Heaping Helping of Self-Help and A Second Helping of Self-Help. I never understood why people shelled out big bucks for her books and even more money to attend one of her speaking events. Her advice was pablum, her sayings trite. Because of this, though, she felt it was her right, no, her obligation, to offer advice to all and sundry. Poisoning would be too good for them. Don't be flip, dear. Or electrocution. We could call it the juice of justice. Okay, Mom was going to play the game, outdo me with sarcasm. I gave it up. Why did you kill the woman in the living room? I had avoided this question. A cold hand squeezed my heart, a dark dread that the answer would confirm my mom as an irredeemable monster enveloped me. She profited from charities raising money for sick kids. Quite clever, actually. She ran the funds through several shell corporations, but in the end, the money ended up in an account in Barbados. And I persuaded her to transfer the ill-gotten gains to the proper charities. Persuaded? You would be amazed at what one can do with a lit cigarette and a serrated knife. God, Mom. More tea, dear? The myriad philosophers that I had read didn't help. The addition by subtraction philosophy that Mom purported as rationalization for her murderous ways didn't help. All I could think of was that the hands that soothed me as a youngster now wielded knives and cigarettes. I finally concluded that Mom's ways were another expression of love, a new and, to her, improved way to do what she could for her fellow humans before the long sleep. As for me, I'll take a more traditional approach and avoid murdering people, and I told my mom this. Never say never, dear. Mom's advice on things came with platitudes. I'll never stop loving you, Mom. She smiled, nodding her head at my cleverness. You mean you'll always love me? Shut up, Mom. Okay, dear, but come, give your mother a hug. Put out the cigarette first. Because she loved me. She put out the cigarette. A perfect Sunday evening, except for the screaming and blood. A few years ago, I crossed Fairmont Street to avoid the sun. Had I been a hardier soul and stayed on the east side of the street, I might not have met the woman of my dreams. But I did cross the street, and I met Vivian. In the fullness of time, we fell in love. We have been together 5 years, and each day seems better than the last. Even today seemed perfect, except for the screaming and the blood. "You take the legs and I'll get the shoulders," Vivian said, as she reached down to grab the upper part of the bound and gagged man. I did as instructed, and we tossed the writhing body in the bed of the pickup truck. It wasn't easy because he was a fat son of a bitch. Jason Mobley, the man currently enjoying the view from the back of the truck, is as sorry a human being as we had ever come across. Without delving into the sordid details of his sins, suffice it to say that he has put more than one person in the ground and collected the insurance payout. Vivian's mom was one of the victims. I stopped the truck and slid out. Vivian and I took out the jack, a hammer, and a rope. Jason's eyes widened at the sight of the rope, and he wriggled in terror, thinking we were going to hang him. No, Jason. What we were going to do will be much worse. The first kiss did it for me. I had kissed plenty of women before, but none had the cool fire of Vivian's lips. A subtle, searching hunger, a slight moan, a soft sigh. I was lost in Vivian from that point on. Moving Jason was much easier now because we could roll him. He kicked at Vivian, but she punched him in the mouth and the kicking ceased. You had to admire a woman who could solve a problem with a punch. I set the loop of the rope under the truck and placed the jack inside the loop. Vivian loosened the nuts on the flat tire. Now I could jack up the truck. The flat tire was tossed into the back of the truck, and the spare tire was left leaning against the bare wheel. The scenario was ready. Okay, Deeds, let's get this overstuffed bastard under the wheel. That's me, Deeds, short for Dee Dee. A name made for trailer park trash like me. Let's take the rag out of his mouth. Maybe he has some final words before we do him in. I may have come from a home that had wheels, but common courtesy should be observed. Vivian grimaced at the suggestion, but complied. I'll kill you. I'll fucking kill both you whores. Let me go. Vivian kicked him in the ribs. Apparently, Jason Mobley never heard of making one's last words memorable. I squatted down beside Jason. You're gonna have an accident while changing a flat tire. The jack is gonna slip and you'll be pinned under the truck. The weight will crush you, but you won't die right away. Jason tried to wriggle away, so Vivian kicked him in the crotch. Another effective maneuver by the love of my life. It'll be slow and painful, Jason. I'm a nurse, so I know how these things go. Your chest will be crushed from the initial blow, and then from the pressure. You'll start spitting blood, but it won't do you any good because you'll drown in it. The blood, I mean. You gotta let me go. I have money. Lots of money. I'll give it all to you girls. We don't want your money, Vivian spat out. What? What do you want? I'll do anything. Vivian stared at Jason. I just want to see you suffer, then die, like my mom. He started screaming as we pulled the rope taut. The screams could probably be heard a mile away in this still air, but no one was around to hear them. Vivian and I jerked the rope, and the jack slipped, crashing down on Jason. The screaming stopped, replaced by a grunt, and followed by the gurgle of blood in his throat. Well, he finally shut up, Vivian said. She chewed on a piece of beef jerky, but spat the juice out. I never understood that, but she sure looked cute while spitting. That's true love when you think these sorts of things. That's because he can't scream anymore. His lungs are full of blood, and he's choking to death. Slowly, I hope. Oh yeah, he's having a terrible time of it, I said, glancing at the man being crushed to death. He looked pitiful and small, despite his bulk. Say, do you remember when we first met? I turned to Vivian. She had just spat out a wad of beef jerky and put it in a bag. It wouldn't do to leave DNA evidence behind. Smart woman. Of course. You were just standing in the middle of the sidewalk staring at me. It was a little creepy, but also nice. Like someone found me attractive. Well, you were that, are that, will always be that, I think. Vivian cuddled up next to me, and we watched Jason slowly slip away. It was terribly romantic, watching someone die while embracing your lover. The police department of Vanderpool, Texas doesn't exist, so the county sheriff and his lone deputy took charge. After an exhaustive investigation that lasted almost 10 minutes, they concluded Jason Mobley suffered a fatal accident. He was a dumb shit anyway, the sheriff said. If brains was leather, he wouldn't have enough to saddle a pissant. And with that trenchant observation, he and the rest of the world walked away from Jason Mobley. 2 nights later, we were in bed, tired and at peace after some serious canoodling. The scent of jasmine wafted in with the cool breeze, the curtains fluttering in the indecisive light of a waning crescent moon. People say that you don't feel better after avenging a death with a death. That's bullshit, Deeds. I feel great about it. Vivian lit a cigarette and passed it to me. I took a long drag and handed it back, letting my hand linger on hers. I don't know that I feel great about it, but I sure don't feel bad about it. I wonder if you feel different about me now. I turned to Vivian and stroked her cheek. Surprisingly, it had tears. Vivian wasn't one of those girls that cried much. The night had gone seriously quiet. Even the curtains stopped making any noise. It was as if they wanted to listen in. I think we should move in together. Vivian smiled and wiped away her tears before kissing me. Like the first kiss between us, it swallowed me whole without consuming me. If we do that, all the people around here will call us lesbians. Viv, we are. She thought about it for a moment before tamping out the cigarette. Okay, your trailer house or mine? You would think this was the end of the story, all wrapped up with a happy ending, right? My friends, this is just the beginning. Another perfect evening was slowly ambling its way towards us. Vivian, very fetching in her cutoffs and tank top, sat on a rock and chewed on beef jerky. I was a little jealous that she could look so good after 10 years of living together. I was never what you'd call pretty, and the years spent toiling as a nurse were taking a toll on me. Not to put too fine a point on it, I was looking a little like 10 miles of bad road. I was also feeling my age, which was uncomfortably close to 40. I thought of my future a lot these days. More specifically, I pondered my life as an old lady. Vivian would tell you that I do this too often, and perhaps she's right. Her sunny disposition gives me sunburn because it never lets up. The problem is that she's too pretty. I see others looking at her, and I know what those looks mean. A cold dread squeezes me. A terrible thought gets in my head and stays there. As sure as sugar is sweet, Vivian will leave me one day. Which is why I have to kill her. That's what I tell myself anyway. It isn't easy corralling a rattlesnake. First, you have to find them. Then you have to coax them into a bag without getting bitten. Then you have to feed them and keep them hidden so your victim is caught unawares. I am going to considerable lengths to kill Vivian and make it look like an accident. I hope she appreciates it. Sunday afternoons are hot in August around here, but it starts to cool off around 7 o'clock. When the evening starts to make an appearance, the magic of the area gets serious. This particular Sunday evening was splendid. The wind whispered through the prairie grass and tickled the leaves of the gnarled oaks. Lizards skittered here and there, looking for food or shelter or, perhaps, just a few final rays of sunshine. I tossed my well-kept rattler in the bed of our pickup truck and induced Vivian to come out for a walk. We had our special place about 3 miles down the road. We would often drive there and spend hours walking over the hills and finding a good place to have a late picnic. The picnic usually ended up with us drinking too much cheap wine and getting naked. I hope we didn't traumatize the lizards. And now we come to it. The dastardly deed. Things didn't turn out as planned. I spied on you. Vivian's confession wounded me. How can a person reasonably expect to commit murder when the intended victim is better at it? She had me wrapped up in cellophane, Glad Wrap, BTW, before I knew what was happening. It was a little embarrassing to be put in such a position, but even worse was the betrayal. I should have known, though. She stopped kissing me like she used to kiss me. I never thought it would come to this, Viv, but you kept on getting prettier, and I just got older. Vivian took the bag with the snake from the back of the truck and laid it down by my feet. She knelt next to me and stroked my hair. I could see the tears streaming down her face, and her chest spasmed as she tried not to sob. I still love you, you idiot, but I can't let you kill me. I could argue the point, but I didn't. No use. She held the upper ground, and she had the snake. I eyed the bag distastefully. Vivian saw me and understood. Probably not a very pleasant way to go, but it's what you had planned for me. True enough, my journey in life is over. I know that because I know Vivian. She'll carry through with the deed, and I'll be just another rattlesnake victim in South Central Texas. The only consolation I have is that she's too smart to get caught. I deserve to die, but she doesn't. It'll probably hurt, Deeds. It has to be the ankle so it looks like an accident, and it'll take a while to stop your heart. I'm sorry, sweetie. It hurt like hell. This is my last bit of writing because my hands are starting to tremble. Like Jason Mobley, I don't have any high-minded final words. I just wish the bitch hadn't outfoxed me. Vivian's narrative. Deeds forgave me for what I had to do. I know this because we kissed one last time, right before the snake bite. It was the same as the first time she kissed me. I can't describe things as well as her, but when she kisses me like she means it, the feeling of her love lingers long after the lips separate. I'm gonna miss her like hell, my friend Matilda. She did it, but I'm getting ahead of myself. This all started when Sadie moved into a new home. 25 years old, a nice car, a new house, and a cat. She liked cats. They are self-sufficient, but at the same time, loving balls of fluff and affection. Her cat was always with her and followed her from room to room. Her cat, Matilda, was also her best friend. Not just words, they really were friends. They talked to each other and slept together. Moving into the house and setting it up was seriously the first adult thing she ever did. She got the house for a great price, and the previous owners told her they needed to sell fast because they took a job in California and needed to be there by the first of the month. She remembered this house when she was little. Her aunt lived here, and her mom and her would visit a few times a month. Her aunt had a little girl she played with when she was there. Maddie was her name. They loved playing dress-up and could play forever. She had a favorite doll she carried with her everywhere. It was an off-brand Barbie-type doll, but it was dressed like a hippie and had blue hair. Sadie thought that was the coolest doll in the world, and when they played, the doll went on adventures, traveled all over the world, and always came home from her trip and took a nap. Sadie and her mom went to the house one day, but Maddie wasn't there. Her mom told her she was gone. Sadie figured she had moved and went in to play with the toys again. But Sadie felt like Maddie was there, playing with her. Maddie told her she would be with her forever, and she was. Sadie and her mom would come over, and Sadie would go to Maddie's room and play. She knew Maddie was there, in the room. Maddie told her where she was, but it did not make sense. Sadie never told an adult what Maddie told her. They stopped going over to the house after a few months. She thinks they moved out and went to another town. She heard her mom telling someone that they went upstate. They never talked about where, nor did they mention a place, just upstate. Sadie grew up and did well in school. She knew things thanks to Maddie, and because of that, she got away with a lot that she shouldn't have. But once she started college, that feeling and precog inkling disappeared. These days, she never thinks about it. Lately, though, she's getting that little tickle again. She knows things and has a familiar feeling that she can't shake. At night, she dreams amazing dreams. During the day, she sees things around her, people, events, and places she dreamed about the night before. Maddie was back. The little girl, Maddie, not someone her age. She thought about that, and it made sense to her. She knew her at the age of 6 and 7, and to Sadie, Maddie would always be 7 years old and carry the hippie doll with blue hair. A few weeks after they moved into the house, Matilda started a strange ritual. When Sadie came home from work, Matilda would be in the corner of the living room, relaxed but seeming to be scared or nervous. She would walk over and pick her up, but this time, she realized the floor was a little soft. It felt spongy. She called a contractor, Robin and Wilhelmina Ruck, and on Saturday, he and his wife stopped by to evaluate the work. He measured, tested, and told her $600 to make it solid again. She agreed, and they would start on it Monday morning. The contractors lived a few doors away, and she had no issue telling them she would leave the key on a magnet in the mailbox next to the front door. At 8 o'clock, she left for work, leaving the key where she had said. And at 10:30 on the dot, Wilhelmina called and told her she needed to get home now. It took her half an hour to get home, and when she did, there were police cars, a coroner, and more people in front of and inside her home than she thought possible. As she parked at the end of her driveway, she was approached by a pair of plain-clothed detectives, a man and a woman. "Are you Miss Roberts?" the man asked. "I am." "What's going on?" Sadie asked. "I am Detective Marlowe, and this is Detective Finley. We are here investigating the incident in your living room." Okay, she was confused, and looking at her face, you could see the disconnect between what she knew and what they just said to her. Sadie said, "What incident?" Detective Finley asked, "You have no idea?" Sadie shook her head, hoping someone would fill her in. Detective Marlowe said, "It appears that your contractor opened a section of your floor this morning to do the repair you asked him to do and found something rather disturbing." She stared at him like he was about to grow a third eye. He looked at her, she knew, waiting for her to say something, but she didn't. He continued. "They found the remains of a child, wrapped in plastic, airtight. Her neck was broken. Can you shed some light on any of this?" "Number, I can't. I bought this house a month or so ago and moved in. I always liked this house and was happy it went on the market. Decitive Finley said, "You are familiar with this house?" In a way. When I was little, maybe 6 or 7 years old, my mom and I used to visit here. I called the lady Aunt Roberta. I think their last name was Powell. Now I realize she was not any relation, just a friend of my mother. She had a daughter, Maddie, that I played with when I was here. The detective added, "What happened to them?" All I remember is that they moved upstate. Where upstate? Marlowe asked. No idea. All they ever said was upstate, never a city name. Can we speak to your mother? How can we get in contact with her? Finley asked. Sadie smiled ever so slightly. Before she could speak, Finley asked, "Why the grin?" "I have a rather interesting sense of humor, always have. I almost told you to contact my mom by seance, which made me smile. My mother died a couple of years ago from cancer." Sorry to hear that. Both detectives narrowed their eyes at the comment, but they let it pass. "Is there anyone you know who can tell us about Roberta and Maddie?" "I have no clue. Until last night, I forgot all about this." Both detectives showed a curiosity in their eyes, speaking together. "Last night?" "It's kinda silly, but I dreamt about Maddie and I last night. We played in her room as our parents had coffee and sat at the kitchen table. Probably because yesterday I went up to the attic and it looked like no one had been there in a long time. It was covered in dust. But I found a box marked Maddie's things. I opened it and found a hairbrush, her favorite one. We used to brush each other's hair back then." "Can we get that brush?" Marlowe asked. "Of course. It is still in the attic. Pull the cord in the hall and climb up. There is no light up there, so you'll need a flashlight." "You said it was covered in dust. Was there any disturbance in that dust?" Marlowe asked. "Well, other than my footprints, my shoe prints actually. There were children's prints in the dust. Bare feet. They looked fresh, so I thought the previous owners had a kid who went to the attic once before moving. We need to check out that attic." Marlowe looked at Finley, who nodded. He donned gloves and booties and headed into the house. "Can we go inside? I would like to see how much of my home is disassembled." Finley gestured, and they went into the house. The contractors sat at the breakfast bar, and Sadie walked over to them. Finley followed. Mr. Ruck said, "It appears your floor was so bad because someone removed and did not properly replace it after they buried the body. At that moment, the clear plastic containing the bones of a child was extracted from the floor." Sadie looked at it and was shocked. "That's Maddie," she exclaimed. "How do you know?" "That doll, it's unmistakable. She took it everywhere with her. Maddie and I used to play with it all the time." Finley walked over and looked at the digital images they had taken before they moved the bones. She looked and found the doll. In the image, the skeleton was lying on its back, the doll on its chest, and the hands of the victim holding the doll. Whoever did this knew the relationship between the girl and the doll. Finley returned to the three onlookers as Marlowe returned with the box of Maddie's possessions. "I found the brush. Maybe we can make a positive ID of the little girl," he said. Finley replied, "No need." Sadie made a positive ID. He looked at the skeleton. "How?" "That doll. They played with it when they played together." "Are you certain, Miss Roberts?" "I am. I know it. I feel it. Look at the doll. On its left hand, you'll see a couple of fingers missing. Her cat chewed them off." She grabbed the tablet and found the picture of the left hand. Fingers were missing. "Okay then. Maddie has been found and will be properly laid to rest. First, our ME needs to examine her. She was my friend when I was little. Let me know when I can properly bury her. We'll keep you informed." They left the house, and in a few minutes, the other cops and everyone else left. Mr. and Mrs. Ruck and Sadie were left alone. Matilda came from the back of the house and hopped onto the counter. She snuggled to her owner. "I think I will call it a night. I can take care of it in a few hours tomorrow. I have all the measurements, and the detectives said they would not need to return to the hole. So, tomorrow, it will look like it was never an issue." "Thank you." He walked over and covered the hole with a tarp, stapling it to the plywood around the hole. Sadie knew it was a critter barrier and to stop the weather from getting into the house. Once they left, Sadie sat on the couch facing the hole. Matilda sat on her lap but had not moved for over an hour. Maybe 15 minutes passed, and the hair on Matilda's back started to rise. Sadie felt it too. The room got cold, and the hairs on Sadie's neck began to rise. Matilda's back was hunched, and she was staring at the tarp. Her eyes focused on the tarp, and her pupils were their maximum size. She was looking for something, or she saw something. The tarp pushed up slightly, and Matilda hissed. Sadie calmed her. As she did, she saw her friend rising through the tarp, and she was holding the doll. More precisely, she could see through her friend. "Thank you." Her words sounded distant, echoed like they were in a great cavern. A moment later, Maddie began to fade until she was gone. Matilda settled back onto Sadie's lap. "Well, Matilda, I know now why I had to buy this house. Maddie needed to rest, and we needed to help her." Matilda gave the strangest meow Sadie had ever heard, and then started purring. Sadie sat on the couch a bit longer, thinking of playing with Maddie. It was a good memory. She did it. Now, her friend can rest, escaping neutrality. "Good morning, Derek." "Morning, Doc. How are you feeling today? Any more thoughts of harming?" I had to interrupt her. Dr. Fuller was one of the better shrinks I'd had to deal with, but she was a real job's worth about following the script. It would be the same old introductory questions. She couldn't help but tick those boxes at the top of the day's crisp white form, still warm off the copier, but would be terrified of doing so unless I actually said the words. I struggled to find the patience to verbalize my repeated and identical statements. "Ever noticed how stark our world has become?" I asked out of the blue, cutting her off to her obvious annoyance. She sighed, then visibly gathered up a well-practiced decorum. "What do you mean by that?" she asked, abandoning the prescribed sheet for later and joining my real conversation. I was proud of her. "I mean that when we were children, the world was full of color. I'd wait to cross the road and see cars of gold, green, red, and blue fly past. I'd look down the street, and every house would be trimmed with sage guttering, burgundy window frames, or dark blue front doors. My bedroom was even painted a musky orange and had deep brown carpets at one point. It really offset the crimson of my lava lamp and the teal of my inflatable couch. But today, what do you see when you look around?" I still see some of those things, but you're right. Most things are far more tastefully done these days. Do you miss your childhood? Would colorful surroundings bring you more comfort as you had back then? Tasteful, classy, reserved, miserable, soul-destroying, I said, hammering my point home and ignoring her textbook questions. Dr. Fuller really needed to up her game, but what could I expect from someone so new to the field and so young? "I bet you drive a white car, huh, Tasha?" "Doctor Fuller, Please, Derek. Yes, I do. Why is that relevant? Well, I know for a fact that they've made white the cheapest option. For any splash of color whatsoever, you have to pay a premium now. Is it any wonder that every modern car you see in the road is now white? I suppose not. Most, like me, cannot afford the extra expense. What are you getting at here, Derek? Only that the world was fading, having its color drawn out, far before I was ever denied the sight of it. I did not register her next question. Her side of the conversation always included a question. I was distracted by the spontaneous idea that Dr. Fuller would have an office somewhere, and that there was a chance it might not be quite as bland as her car. Its walls might be covered in bright book spines, all in clear view from the comfortable, deep maroon couches. A myriad of certifications in shining wooden frames would sit side by side with calming vistas, no doubt depicting an unnamed ocean of calming blue spotted with colorful sailboats. I imagined it as being quite pleasant. Perhaps she was right. A throwback to my early years, drenched in technicolor, might have offered me some contentment, useless to contemplate. I would never again see such a sight in this life. My imagined home for the dear doctor was a far cry from our current reality. Whitewashed concrete encased the bare room I was forced to meet her in daily. Gray, steel chairs and a matching table offered the only tint to the otherwise monochrome box. Tasha's wardrobe of endless white blouses and gray skirts might have been a choice, but I expected it was simply a subconscious effort to conform to the washed-out world that we both inhabited. "Did you hear what I said, Derek?" she asked, ducking her head to try and catch my vacant eyes. "No," I answered honestly. "Where were you?" Credit. Where credit is due, the doc had some skills. Instead of accelerating with her own agenda, she was able to pull into my lane at a moment's notice. Time to knock her off the road. "I was imagining where I would find you, outside of this place. Without these," I said, staring her directly in the eye and pulling sharply on the handcuffs that strapped my wrists to my chair. The loud and sudden clink of the metal chain startled her, and I watched as her pupils dilated in fear. It was the little pleasures. Telling the truth, but in a way that elicited the reaction I desired. It was all the entertainment I could find anymore. I thought she was done after that. Figured she would flee, never to return, to be replaced with yet another box-checking drone, fresh out of shrink school, wanting to prove they could handle the worst of the worst. Instead, she surprised me. "You will never again be without those, Derek, nor will you ever see the outside world freely. My job here is only to determine which walls will hold you. Do you understand that?" Tasha said, setting her jaw and returning my stare. Always another question with Doc Fuller. "I understand completely. I am not a simpleton," I snapped. Her resilience annoyed me. "I agree. It's quite the opposite, I think. You are clearly very intelligent, Derek. After these few sessions, I can see you are more than capable of self-reflection. So shall we stop wasting each other's time and get back on task? Pass your psych evaluation, and I'll put my recommendation in that you be transferred to Parkhurst and allowed regular yard time. Keep driving away your doctors and avoiding the issue with talk of cars and old bedroom decor, and you will remain here, isolated on the psych ward, for the rest of your sentence." "For the rest of my life," I corrected her. "If that is what you want, then I may as well leave now." She didn't move, a weak gambit that rarely fooled children. It never convinced mine. To use it, you had to be willing to follow through. I could never bring myself to let them out of my sight, much as Dr. Fuller would never have the courage to walk out of that door on the gamble that I'd call her back. I decided to give her the victory anyway. Let her feel powerful for a moment before I took it all away. It would be preferable to see the blue of the sky again, I conceded. White rooms with gray furniture, guarded by monochrome uniforms and visited by equally starkly adorned doctors, I said, gesturing at her up and down. I might as well be in heaven already for the level of cloud cover that surrounds me. Do you believe in heaven? Tasha asked, and just like that, with yet another question, the session resumed. It was the most personal question she had asked me yet. Her confidence was growing. I could not allow it to dwarf my own. Number she would need to regain her fear of me soon. I refused to admit that her earlier stoicism had ruffled me, yet I felt a growing urge to get the upper hand once more. She knew all too well I could never get close enough to harm her physically. I was too notorious for that kind of carelessness from the guards. I'd need to break her from a distance, and I planned to. Of course, don't you? I countered. I'm not sure. I am yet to hear a convincing argument either way. Coward, I whispered. Belief is not something you can be convinced of. Do you believe you are destined for heaven, Derek? Why not? I asked. God forgives us all for the weakness of our flawed human existence. All we need do is seek and accept it. And you have asked for forgiveness? She ventured. I could hear the eagerness in her voice, the building excitement that it could be that easy, that I could give her what she needed to scribble on her form and sleep easy, knowing she had succeeded in bringing a lost cause back from the brink. For what? I feigned ignorance. Baiting her was so easy. For your crimes. Come on, Doc. You can say it. I paused for only a second before exploding forward across the table as far as my clasped wrists would allow me, raining spittle that peppered her damn forms as I roared my best imitation of a literary detective. For murder most foul? I almost missed her reaction for my laughter. Psychologists were such fun. When will they realize that some behaviors are chosen simply for the entertainment of it, rather than the result of some past trauma? As it was, my eyes cleared from joy-induced tears just in time to see her recovering herself and returning to a normal position after trying in panic to escape her pale, metal seat. You can try to scare me all you like, Derek, she said with breaths that had not quite slowed, but I won't be leaving. Not as a result of any action of yours. I am your last chance, and I don't intend to be the reason this system fails you. All mirth left me, and my face dropped into a practiced blankness. I decided in that moment it was time to try a little more earnestly, no longer for my own enjoyment, but because I knew a truth that Tasha had yet to realize. I was never going to be transferred, no matter what I revealed to her. The only way I was ever going to see anything but the consuming whites of my cell again would be by my own hand. So, there was little point in her dance. I needed only one thing from the good doctor, and to get it, I wanted her distracted, nervous, and off-script. Straight-backed, head high, and glasses once more pushed up on her nose, Tasha Fuller tried her best to ignore my outburst and proceeded to ask her next question. So, whether to God or man, you understand that you need to ask forgiveness for the deaths you caused? No, I said musically. I never stated the reason I would require forgiveness. No, my prayers are more centered around lust and gluttony. There are few pleasures left to me other than my imagination and my meals, I said, winking at the pretty little doctor. An exaggeration for her benefit. I could not truthfully admit to enjoying the white mush of potato and gray mystery meat I ate daily. Thinking of her, though, that worked. I liked them pale. Derek, You are incarcerated here for the murder of your wife and 2 daughters. Do I need to explain to you again the gravity of your situation? If myself and my colleagues cannot determine an underlying cause for your violent behavior, then you are facing a lifetime of being classed as criminally insane. Would you rather a continuation of the treatment you get here, or are you willing to embrace the chance we are giving you? At Parkhurst, you might truly find rehabilitation. All of that is at your discretion, Doc. I am here, I am an open book. I have never lied. Not once. I pride myself on honesty, I said, raising my chin in challenge. If you want the answers you seek, you simply need to ask the right questions, instead of these meaningless generalities. I watched her scour her memory and her notes, her eyes darting, looking for the truth in my words, until my meaning dawned on her. Why? Why did you do it? She asked immediately, blessedly direct. Finally, I sighed. Sometimes, after all that education, all that introspected study and exploration of the human condition, all you need do is ask a simple, straightforward, common sense and normal question. Why did I kill them? I was saving them. I heard the click of her pen and the scrawling of notes behind the steel clipboard. Now I had her, beyond her strict training, out of her depth. Saving them from what? She asked, the interest bright in her eyes. They were under the power of demons. Their lives were already forfeit. I released their souls from their torture to be claimed by the sky, where they wait for me to join them. I would be there already, if I were a stronger man. I shook my head and dropped my gaze, genuinely lamenting at my failure. Her scribbling continued for a few moments longer, before stilling the room to silence. You thought your family were possessed by demons? Dr. Fuller attempted to confirm. Are you stupid? I yelled, snapping my head back up to meet her scrutiny. It was the only part of my body I was allowed autonomy over during the sessions. I didn't say possessed. I said they were under the power of demons. Through their muted screens, the endless stories pumped into their gray matter turned them into walking avatars for another's narrative. Their minds warped, their perception altered, and they were no longer the girls I knew. They began spouting the same garbage that was looping into our home from the black and gray bordered rectangles of controlled light. The only color in their lives coming from what was gifted by monsters via LED, while they systematically stole it from any other pursuit. My family became puppets to an evil's will. I took their souls and put them out of reach. I surrendered them into the protection of a power that exists in true light and color above our poisoned planet. I could feel my chest heaving. The passion from my torrent of words pumped through my veins. I could not stop the tears from streaming down my cheeks, the sobs from racking my body. My grief over the actions I had been forced to take broke free. It was real. I should not have had to take such drastic action, but it had been the only way. I heard the scrape of her chair as she pushed it back and rose, smelt the flowery perfume that wafted before her as she approached, and shuddered under the warmth of her hand on my shoulder. When the good doctor crouched and put her face on a level with mine, I hesitated. Her words were so kind. It's all right now, Derek. I'm going to make sure you get the help you need. This would be a hard lesson for her to learn. I slammed my forehead into her glasses, shattering them against her face, and feeling the bone in her nose crack. It took a moment of delay for her body to catch up, but then quickly, crimson blood flowed down her face from her nose and the cuts around her eyes. I was not sure if it was hers or my own that I tasted on my cut lips. The deep red that painted our faces in unison was a desperately welcome tone amongst the stark. True color suddenly swamped the pallor of my world. It was glorious. It was relief. It was satisfaction. My head hit the back of my cell with such force that I feared the guards had already done the work for me. I laid still, stunned by the blow, and waited for my monochrome world to refocus. The white room and strong lights pierced inward, accelerating the headache that was to come. They would be back to take me to the infirmary soon enough. First, they would need to rescue poor Dr. Tasha Fuller from her minor injuries. She deserved their attention. She was the best shrink I'd ever had. She'd healed me and didn't even know it. From between my teeth, I dropped the shard of glass I'd bitten from her broken optics. I took it between my now free fingers and readied myself to join my family in salvation. From my body would birth a refuge of color amidst the sea of white. Just as they had, I would arise from a pool of bright crimson. Bathed at its center, I would finally be able to ascend to where a full spectrum of light would welcome me home.